The trading station Nexus 7 floated in the void between three star systems, a neutral hub where dozens of alien species conducted business. Captain Rex of the merchant vessel Terra's Pride had docked here countless times, but today felt different. His crew of 12 humans moved through the bustling corridors with practiced ease, their cargo of rare earth metals drawing interested buyers. The station's administrator, a tall blue-skinned Vorthan named Commander Vex, watched the humans through. The observation deck. Like most aliens, he found their species fascinating yet unsettling. Humans were relatively new to galactic society, having achieved faster-than-light travel only 50 years ago. Most species took centuries to develop such technology. They move strangely, observed Lieutenant Cole, a four-armed Nexari security officer, too quick, too aware. Commander Vex nodded. In the galactic community, most species had evolved past the need for constant vigilance. The Vorthans were peaceful philosophers, the Nexari were methodical engineers, and the insectoid Zephirites were collective thinkers. War had been eliminated from civilized space for over 1,000 years, but humans were different. They came from a death world where everything tried to kill everything else. Their reflexes were unnaturally fast, their pattern recognition almost supernatural. Even in peaceful settings, they seemed ready for violence that would never come down in the trading bay. Captain Rex's second-in-command, Lieutenant Maya, supervised the cargo transfer. She was a compact woman with sharp eyes that never stopped. Moving, the alien dock workers gave her a wide berth, not out of fear, but from an instinctive unease they couldn't name. Captain, Maya's voice crackled through the com. We've got company. 3 ships just dropped out of hyperspace. Configuration unknown, but they're big. Rex frowned. Unscheduled arrivals were rare in neutral space. He made his way to the stations. Central hub, where emergency lights had begun flashing amber, the universal signal for unexpected visitors. The ships were unlike anything in the galactic database. Black as space itself, they seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. No identification codes, no response to hails. They simply hung in space like sleeping predators. This is Commander Vex of Nexus 7, the Vorthan broadcast on all frequencies. Please identify yourselves and state your business. Silenced then, without warning, the 3 ships opened fire. The first salvo tore through the station's outer defenses like paper. Alarms shrieked as sections of the hull buckled and atmosphere began venting into space. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut, trapping thousands of beings in different sections of the massive structure. Raiders, someone screamed over the intercom. Unknown species. They're boarding us. In the chaos, Captain Rex remained calm, while aliens around him panicked, their minds struggling to process the concept of unprovoked violence. He was already moving. His hand found Maya's shoulder. Get the crew to the cargo bay. Secure our ship. If this goes bad, we leave. What about the civilians? Rex looked around at the terrified aliens. Most had never seen violence outside of historical records. They stood frozen, their minds unable to comprehend what was happening. A few Vorthans were trying to reason with the attacking ships, still broadcasting pleas for peaceful communication. They won't survive this, Rex said quietly. But maybe we can. The first Raider soldiers materialized through teleportation beams. Tall, skeletal beings in environmental suits. They moved with deliberate efficiency, stunning any alien they encountered with energy weapons. Not killing, capturing. SLAVERS. Commander Vex tried to activate the station's defensive systems. but his hands shook too badly to operate the controls. 1,000 years of peace had bred the capacity for violence out of his people. The raiders ignored him, simply stunning him and moving on. But they hadn't encountered humans yet. In the cargo bay, Maya was distributing weapons to the crew. Not energy weapons like the aliens used, but kinetic firearms, primitive by galactic standards but reliable. Her movements were fluid, economical. No wasted motion. Rules of engagement? Asked Tom, the ship's engineer. There are no rules, Maya replied, checking her rifle. These things are slavers. They're here to take prisoners and sell them. We're not going to be prisoners. Above them, the raiders continued their systematic sweep of the station. They had done this before, hit isolated outposts, capture the inhabitants, disappear before any military response could arrive. It was a perfect plan that had worked dozens of times before, but they had never encountered humans. The stage was set. In the sterile corridors of Nexus 7, two very different evolutionary paths were about to collide. The raiders, confident in their superiority over primitive species, and the humans, the only beings on the station who remembered how to kill. The raiders moved through Nexus 7's upper levels like a surgical strike team. Captain Vex, their leader, watched through his helmet display as his soldiers cleared each section. The operation was proceeding perfectly, just like the 17 previous raids. Sector 7 cleared, reported Sergeant Nix through the CUM. 47 prisoners secured. Sector 9 cleared, added Corporal Z. 32 prisoners. These beings offer no resistance. Captain Vex smiled behind his mask. The galactic species was soft, their warrior instincts bred out by millennia of peace. They were perfect merchandise, intelligent enough to be valuable, docile enough to be manageable. The slave markets in the outer rim would pay handsomely for this haul. Proceed to the lower levels, Vex ordered. Complete the sweep. Leave no witnesses except the merchandise. 3 levels down, Maya crept through the maintenance tunnels with Tom and Jake, 2 of Rex's most trusted crew members. They had split into teams to better cover the station. Through the metal grating, she could see the raiders herding captured aliens toward their ships. Look at them, Tom whispered. They're not even trying to fight back. Maya studied the raiders. Movements, professional, but overconfident. They moved in predictable patterns, cleared rooms without checking corners properly. Why would they? Nothing in their experience had taught them to expect resistance. They don't know we're here yet, she murmured. Let's keep it that way. Her earpiece crackled with Rex's voice from the cargo bay. Maya, what's your status? 3 of them just passed our position. They're using standard sweep patterns to standard. It's like they've never faced opposition before. Probably haven't. Intel suggests most galactic species haven't fought a war in centuries. Maya watched as a raider casually stunned a cowering Nexori engineer. The alien collapsed without even attempting to flee. It was like watching someone hurt a child, and Maya felt something cold settle in her stomach. Captain, these things aren't warriors, they're bullies. They've been picking on defenseless civilians so long they've forgotten how to fight real soldiers. Copy that. Remember, we're not here to be heroes. Secure our exit route, and his transmission cut off as emergency lighting bathed the corridor in red. Through the grating, Maya saw a raider squad approaching their section. Heads up, she whispered to Tom and Jake. We've got company. The lead raider, Sergeant Nix, gestured for his team to spread out. They had detected human life signs in this area. the first unknown species they'd encountered on the station. According to their databases, humans were a primitive spacefaring race, barely worthy of notice, probably hiding like the others. Nix told his soldiers, "Find them quickly. The captain wants this operation finished within the hour." They began their search with the same casual efficiency they'd used throughout the station. Check the obvious hiding spots, scan for life signs, move on. They never imagined that someone might be hunting them in return. Maya had positioned herself in the ventilation system directly above the main corridor. Tom was behind a cargo container to the left, Jake behind a support pillar to the right. Classic ambush formation. Something humans had perfected over millennia of warfare. The first raider walked directly beneath Maya's position. She dropped silently behind him, her knife finding the gap between his helmet and body armor before he could even register her presence. The blade severed his spinal cord instantly, a kill technique perfected by human special forces. He collapsed without a sound. Tom and Jake moved simultaneously. Tom's rifle barked twice kinetic rounds, punching through alien armor at close range. Jake's shotgun roared once, the spread catching to raiders who had clustered too close together in less than 3 seconds. 5 raiders lay dead. The 6th raider, Sergeant Nix, stared in shock. In his 30 years of raiding, he had never seen anything move that fast. The humans had appeared from nowhere, killed his entire squad, and disappeared again before he could even raise his weapon. Contact, he screamed into his hostile species. There, Maya's second knife took him in the throat. He gurgled once and fell. The silence that followed was deafening. Station security to all raiders. Maya spoke into Nix's unit, mimicking his voice pattern. Sweep complete. All clear in Sector 5. Through her earpiece, she heard Rex's voice. "Maya, what was that noise?" "Just some raiders learning why humans survived to reach the stars, Captain. But I think we're about to have company. Lots of company." Above them, Captain Vex had lost contact with an entire squad. For the first time in his career, something had gone wrong. Something had fought back. Above them, Captain Vex had lost contact with an entire squad. For the first time in his career, something had gone wrong. Something had fought back. And he had no idea what Captain Vex stared at his tactical display in growing confusion. Squad 3 had gone silent in Sector 5. Their life signs flatlined in rapid succession, not stunned, dead. In his 20 years of raiding, he had never lost a single soldier to these pathetic galactic species. Squads 4 and 6 converge on Sector 5, he ordered. Exercise extreme caution. We have an unknown hostile element. Lieutenant Kix, his second-in-command, leaned over the display. Could be a malfunction in the biomonitors. 5 simultaneous malfunctions. Vex's voice carried an edge of uncertainty. No, something killed them. Something fast. On the station, Maya and her team had vanished back into the maintenance tunnels. They moved through the cramped spaces like ghosts, using the station's own infrastructure against the invaders. Maya had memorized the layout during their previous visits, a habit Rex insisted upon for all his crew. Basic rule of staying alive, Rex had always said, know every way in and every way out. Through the metal grating, Maya watched to new. Raider squads entered the corridor where they'd staged their ambush. These soldiers moved differently, weapons raised, checking corners, communicating through hand signals. The easy overconfidence was gone. They're learning, she whispered into her. Come. They know something's hunting them. Rex's voice crackled back. Status on our exit route. Still clear. But they're adapting faster than I expected. These aren't mindless thugs. They're professional soldiers who've just never faced real opposition before. What Maya didn't know was that the raiders came from a species called the Harvesters, apex predators from a world where strength determines survival. But they had spent so many generations raiding defenseless civilizations that they had grown complacent. The galaxy had made them soft. Squad 4's leader, Corporal Zix, examined the bodies in the corridor. The wounds were precise, professional, kinetic weapons and blade work. His scanner showed trace amounts of gunpowder residue, a primitive, explosive compound that hadn't been used in warfare for centuries. These humans fight like savages, he reported to Captain Vex. Kinetic projectiles and edged weapons. But the killing patterns, double quotes, he paused, studying the tactical precision of the attack. This wasn't random violence. This was an ambush executed by trained soldiers. Above them, Maya had reached the central hub where Commander Dex and dozens of other aliens huddled in terrified groups. The Vorthan administrator looked up as she dropped from an access hatch. Human, he gasped. Thank the ancestors. You must help us evacuate, stay quiet, and stay hidden. Maya interrupted. How many raiders are on the station? 3 ships. Perhaps 40 or 50 soldiers. They're taking prisoners, not killing. We believe they're slavers from the Outer Rim. Maya nodded. Slavers meant they wanted live cargo. That was an advantage. It meant the raiders would hesitate to use heavy weapons that might damage their merchandise. But it also meant they wouldn't give up easily. Is there a way to seal off sections of the station? Commander Dex nodded. Weakly, emergency bulkheads. But they can be overridden from the central computer. Show me. As they worked to access the station's systems, Maya's earpiece crackled with Tom's voice. Maya, we've got a problem. Large group of raiders moving toward the cargo bay. Looks like they've figured out where our ship is. Maya cursed. The raiders were smarter than she'd given them credit for. Of course they would target the human ship. It was the only vessel on the station that posed a potential threat. Captain Rex, you need to move. Now. Rex's voice was calm, despite the circumstances. Already on it. But we've got 12 crew members scattered across this station. I'm not leaving without them. Sir, if they take our ship, then we fight our way to another one. But nobody gets left behind. That's not how humans do things. Commander Vex looked up from the computer console. Your species would risk all to save a few. Every human life matters, Maya replied. It's why we've survived this long. The Vorthon couldn't comprehend this concept. In galactic society, the logical response would be to sacrifice a few for the many. Cut losses and retreat. But humans operated on a different principle entirely. One forged in the crucible of evolution on a world where cooperation meant survival. Squad 6 had reached the cargo bay level. Their leader, Sergeant Dex, studied the human vessel through his scope. It was smaller than expected, built for speed rather than combat. But the design was wrong somehow. Too angular, too aggressive. It looked like it was built for war. Begin breaching protocol, he ordered. But be careful. These humans are more dangerous than the database suggests. As the raiders prepared to storm the cargo bay, Maya was implementing a plan of her own. Using Commander Vex's access codes, she began sealing bulkheads throughout the station, not to trap the aliens, but to channel the raiders exactly where she wanted them. Tom, Jake, fall back to checkpoint Alpha. We're going to show these things what happens when you corner a human. The hunt was about to become very interesting. Captain Vex watched his tactical display with growing alarm. The station was changing. Around his forces, bulkheads, sealing in seemingly random patterns, creating corridors that led his soldiers into choke points and dead ends. Someone was using the station's own systems against them. All squads, report status, he commanded. Squad 2, trapped in Sector 8. Emergency bulkheads have sealed all exits. Squad 7, under fire in the maintenance level. Enemy using hit-and-run tactics. We can't pin them down. Squad 6, breaching the human vessel now. Heavy resistance. Vex clenched his fists. This was supposed to be a routine raid. 47 professional soldiers against a station full of defenseless civilians. Instead, he was losing men to an enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. In the cargo bay, Sergeant Dex and his squad had breached the human ship's airlock. They expected to find a handful of terrified merchants. Instead, they found Captain Rex waiting for them with a rifle in his hands and ice in his eyes. "Welcome aboard," Rex said calmly, and opened fire. The cargo bay became a killing ground. The raiders had superior numbers and advanced energy weapons, but they were fighting in close quarters against an enemy who had been preparing for this moment. Rex and his remaining crew had turned their own ship into a fortress, using cargo containers as cover and the narrow corridors to their advantage. These humans fight like demons. Dex screamed into his cum as kinetic rounds shredded his squad. They show no fear. That was the difference Captain Vex was beginning to understand. The galactic species had evolved beyond the need for violence. They were civilized, logical, peaceful. But humans came from a world where violence was just another tool for survival. They didn't fear it, they embraced it. Maya had reached the station's central power core, where she found exactly what she was looking for. The Nexus 7 was an old station, built when such facilities still needed to defend themselves against pirates and raiders. Its weapon systems had been deactivated for centuries, but the hardware was still there. Commander Vex watched in amazement as Maya worked. Her fingers flew over controls that had been gathering dust for 1,000 years, reactivating systems that most beings had forgotten existed. "Impossible," he breathed. "Those weapons haven't been used since the Great Peace. No one remembers how to operate them." Maya looked up with a grim smile. "Humans never forgot. We just pretended to." The first turret came online with a deep hum that vibrated through the station's hull. Then the second, then the third. Within minutes, Maya had awakened sleeping giants that had been dormant for millennia. Captain Vex felt his ship shudder as the first weapons blast struck their shields, then another. His tactical officer looked up in shock. "Sir, the station's defensive grid is coming online." "This is impossible. These systems are ancient. All squads, abort mission. Return to the ships immediately." But it was too late. Maya had done more than just reactivate the weapons. She had reprogrammed the station's security protocols. The raiders found themselves trapped in a maze of sealed bulkheads and active defenses, hunted through corridors they no longer controlled. Tom and Jake had linked up with other human crew members, turning the maintenance levels into a guerrilla war zone. They moved through the station's infrastructure like water, appearing wherever the raiders were weakest, striking without warning, then vanishing before retaliation could arrive. "Squad 4 is down." Squad 7 is requesting immediate extraction. We've lost contact with Squad 2 entirely. The disciplined raiders were breaking down as their tactical advantages evaporated. They were used to fighting civilized beings who followed rules of engagement. But humans had learned warfare from nature itself, where the only rule was survival. In his command center, Captain Vex made the hardest decision of his career. All remaining squads, emergency extraction, leave. The prisoners were pulling out. But Maya wasn't finished. As the raider ships began their desperate retreat, she fired up the station's most powerful weapon, a gravity pulse cannon designed to disable ships trying to flee. The first pulse caught one raider vessel as it tried to jump to hyperspace, crushing its engines and leaving it drifting helplessly. The disciplined raiders were breaking down as their tactical advantages evaporated. They were used to fighting civilized beings who followed rules of engagement. But humans had learned warfare from nature itself, where the only rule was survival. In his command center, Captain Vex made the hardest decision of his career. All remaining squads, emergency extraction. Leave the prisoners. We're pulling out. But Maya wasn't finished. As the raider ships began their desperate retreat, she fired up the station's most powerful weapon, a gravity pulse cannon designed to disable ships trying to flee. The first pulse caught one raider vessel as it tried to jump to hyperspace, crushing its engines and leaving it drifting helplessly. This is Captain Rex to all remaining raiders. Rex's voice echoed across all frequencies. You came here thinking you'd found easy prey. You were wrong. Humans don't surrender. We don't negotiate with slavers. And we don't forget. The second raider ship tried to run, but the station's targeting systems, now under Maya's control, tracked its movement with mechanical precision. The gravity cannon fired again, and the ship's hull buckled under the immense forces. Only Captain Vex's ship escaped, limping away with massive damage and a crew reduced by 2-thirds. As the immediate threat faded, Maya allowed herself a moment to breathe. Around her, the rescued aliens stared in awe and terror at what they had witnessed. In less than an hour, a small group of humans had defeated a raider force that should have overwhelmed them completely. But Maya knew this was just the beginning. Word would spread about what happened here. The galaxy was about to learn something. It had forgotten during its long peace that some species never stopped being predators. 3 days later, the rescue fleet arrived at Nexus 7 to find the station intact and operational. Admiral Kess of the Galactic Patrol expected to discover either rubble or no survivors. Instead, she found a fully functional trading post with nearly every civilian alive and unharmed. This is unprecedented, she told Captain Rex as they stood in the station's command center. Raider attacks always result in total population loss. How did you possibly repel a force of that magnitude? Rex glanced at Maya, who was helping Commander Vex repair the damaged sections. We did what humans do, Admiral. We fought back. The blue-skinned Vorthan Admiral studied the after-action reports with growing bewilderment. According to the evidence, 12 humans had not only defeated 47 professional raiders, but had done so with minimal casualties to themselves. The tactical analysis made no sense by galactic standards. Your species used primitive weapons against energy-based armaments. Your ship was outgunned 50-1. By all logical calculations, you should have been overwhelmed in minutes. Logic doesn't account for determination, Rex replied, or for the fact that we've been preparing for this kind of fight our entire evolutionary history. What Admiral Kess didn't understand, what none of the galactic species truly grasped, was that humans had never really stopped being warriors. They had simply learned to hide it behind diplomatic smiles and trade agreements. But when pushed, they reverted to what they had always been, apex predators from a death world. News of the Nexus 7 incident spread through galactic communication networks like wildfire. On the peaceful world of Vorth Prime, philosophers debated the implications of a species that could transition from merchants to warriors in moments. On the engineering planet of Nexa, technical specialists analyzed human weapon designs with fascination and horror. They still use controlled explosions to propel metal projectiles. One Nexari engineer reported to his government, "It's primitive, beyond belief, but terrifyingly effective. Their weapons penetrate our energy shields because they're too simple to be stopped by our defenses." More disturbing were the psychological reports. Galactic counselors had interviewed the surviving civilians, and their accounts painted a picture of humans in combat that defied everything known about civilized behavior. The humans hadn't just fought, they had hunted their enemies with methodical precision, showing neither fear nor hesitation when taking lives. They didn't seem to suffer any psychological trauma from the violence, reported Dr. Vex, a prominent Forthan psychologist. If anything, they appear to be operating in their natural element. It's as if warfare is hardwired into their neural patterns. On the outer rim, in the lawless sectors where pirates and slavers operated freely, the news had a different impact. Captain Vex of the Harvester fleet had limped back to base with his ship damaged and his crew demoralized. Word of his defeat spread quickly through the criminal networks. "Stay away from human ships" became the whispered warning in pirate bars and smuggler dens. They're not prey, they're predators, pretending to be merchants. But some criminals were skeptical. Surely the reports were exaggerated. A few humans couldn't really be that dangerous. Several raider captains decided to test this theory for themselves. They never returned. Maya found herself assigned as a special advisor to the Galactic Defense Force, helping them understand human military tactics. It was uncomfortable work. She preferred the straightforward honesty of trade negotiations to the complex politics of galactic security. "Your species presents a unique problem," Admiral Kess explained during one of their meetings. "The galaxy has been at peace for over 1,000 years. We've evolved beyond the need for military forces, beyond basic patrol duties. But now we're faced with external threats from species that haven't joined our civilization, and we don't know how to fight anymore. You want humans to teach the galaxy how to wage war again?" The Admiral nodded reluctantly. "We need to learn from species that never forgot how to defend themselves. The question is whether your people are willing to take on that responsibility." Maya considered this. Humans had spent 50 years carefully integrating into galactic society, proving they could be peaceful traders and diplomatic partners. Now they were being asked to reveal their true nature as a warrior species. "We'll need to discuss this with Earth Command," she said finally. "But Admiral, you should understand something. If humans agree to help train your forces, we'll do it properly. We don't believe in half measures when it comes to survival." As word of the Nexus 7 incident continued to spread, humanity's reputation in the galaxy began to shift. They were no longer seen as just another peaceful trading species. They were something else entirely, guardians perhaps, or sleeping giants. And in the dark spaces beyond civilized systems, predators who had grown fat on easy prey began to look elsewhere for their victims. The galaxy's long peace was ending, but this time, civilization had protectors who remembered how to fight. The humans were no longer hiding what they were, and the galaxy would never be the same.